Okay, so we are here in France, but I'm just going to commit to some last minute preparations just to get myself prepped enough for what's gonna happen just now. The the Joe comes in here. I believe that's Eric just now that's joined. Yep. If you're new here, welcome. This I stream the races for Formula 170 Online Racing League. Yeah. So we're in round six in France. We will be using the Magny-Cours circuit, but just imagine that it's Paul Ricard, okay? So pre-race procedures will begin shortly, I guess. It's not Goofy Outpost, bro. This is an online league. What the hell did you expect? But yes, it is popping off. Thank you for the nice comments. Uh, yeah, okay. We'll start with the intro, I guess. Then we move on.
Jim steering is revving up.
All right, so here we are in France. Paul Ricard, the circuit. Joe will start on pole. Ocon is looking to extend Econ, sorry, he's looking to extend his championship lead as El Tiburon, the shark, as we go on to Paul Ricard. So let me just, this is something I have to do every race. Uh, just to try to get the top three to be as realistic as possible. So the top three right now is Red Bull, McLaren, Mercedes. Red Bull, McLaren, Mercedes. So you can see here. And for the person that doesn't know, this is a racing league. So this is an online simulator racing league. However, I would say myself to be quite good at making graphics. So, people think that this is realistic when because I make very realistic graphics. So, but this is really just is an online racing league uh made by someone who makes graphics all too well. Yeah. Yeah, so that's basically the premise of the league. I mean, it's quite fun for those that are in it. Um, yeah, I would say that it is quite fun for those that are in it. I mean, there we go. Top three: Joe, Dirksen, Ocon. That's what I've been looking for. So yeah, I would say I would say that it is quite a good league to be in. However, not my main concern as of right now. My main concern right now is having the race here. We will be going when the five lights go out. And it's lights out and away we go for the French Grand Prix. Ocon gets a good start. So does Joe. Tap goes, hits and hits the wall just right there, making him drop down the order. Meanwhile, Joe, you can see he's got a track limits there. Meanwhile, Joe has managed to get a good start ahead of Dirksen in P2. Joe is still looking for his first race win of his career, and behind him are already two proven race winners, that being Dirksen and Ocon there. So is Dirksen under third for the Mercedes? It does not seem so, but Joe with this there's been a yellow flag in sector 2 as we're entering it now, but it seems as though right now Joe is comfortably starting to build a gap. We've gone 50% race distance, and there you just see the Mercedes zooming past him. There's been a 5-second penalty for Joe for a collision with Albany. You can just see there. that the AlphaTauri clearly is struggling, and you can just see them falling, tumbling down the order into last place. So Joe will now have to make quite the recovery drive if he wants a hope of any points today, as the Ferrari man has been able to score points at every race he has participated in. Here we go, the Renault of Tanner Bardol. He's been a solid qualifier, solid point scorer this season for the Renault side, while his teammate has not managed to score a single point this season. So as we go into the main straight, Joe sets the fastest lap, but there's a Mercedes approaching from behind, and as we saw in Canada, you should go watch that by the way. We saw that Joe's strategy was absolutely messed up because Mercedes went for the undercut and it did work. So, but here in the Porter cut in Le Castle, there's been a 5-second penalty for Juan Carrero for a collision with Tanner Bardol. In just back then in Canada, last race, we saw these two went head to toe. Dirksen, Carrero, Tanner, all were just trying to pull the living daylight out of each other. As we see Anthony running in the top 10 for the first time. He's not been able to score a single point this season. He is at risk of a one race ban. As we go on board here with Aircon, he has the DRS. Will he make the move on the Red Bull? Yes, he will. But can Joe respond? Oh, there's 5 seconds. Tap from Jupiter. Track limits. There's a yellow flag in sector 2. He starts dropping down the order as well. All this means that Ocon is able to advance 1 second clear of Joe. However, Joe will have the DRS coming onto the main straight with Ocon's rear wing not being activated and Joe's rear wing being activated. Ocon sets the fastest lap. There's been a yellow flag in sector 2. There's been a warning for the Haas. So can Joe now try to not make it 4 poles and 0 wins, as he's going for his first ever race win this session? This has been 245 days since his first podium. So can he try and do something here? You can see he's catching. Tanner Bardol has managed to just get past the other Mercedes of Juan Carrero, as Tafro Jupiter is now in the pits. So just looking here from the behind view of Ocon, you can just see trailing behind. There's actually the McLaren of Jerkson is actually managing to pull quite a drive, which means that Joe was now under pressure from front and behind. So he has to make his moves now. He has to manage to get within he has to clear Dirksen behind him, which I believe he's done semi-successfully. But all this means that Ocon will extend his championship lead. I haven't calculated the standings yet, but I do believe that he will have the championship lead by quite the margin. Here we have Dirksen just approaching him now. As we go on to the start-finish straight, meaning that he will have the DRS open. Actually, none of their rear wings are open right now. So yeah, Ocon is advancing quite handily right now on lap 4 of 29. If those who were there for the Canada race, they will remember that the Canada race was 35 laps. This race in Magny, and Joe actually drops down to P3 because of that stunning move from Dirksen back to take P2. So it's Ocon, then the McLaren, then the Red Bull. And there's been a virtual safety car. Juan Carrero has retired from the race, meaning that all racing operations neutralized. He is retired with a mechanical failure. This is the first time that the Mercedes power unit of the AMG Mercedes car has been proven to be not sufficient enough. As you can see that he has retired with a mechanical issue. So the virtual safety car is now going to end. I believe is a short one, as they just have to extract the car from the track. And as you can see there comes so as racing resumes, you can just see that Juan Carrero's track position is just dropping. So that has managed to make the top 3 all within a second of each other, or roughly within a second of each other. Or 2, yeah, but they're within a second. I don't know if you get me. But behind Tanner, who's currently running P4, I think that'll be his highest position. the highest position that he's running in so far. But you can see that the gap to Ocon is actually uh, the gap to Ocon is increasing while the gap behind is reducing. There you can see. So the top three are all this is the same top three that we had in Canada. You can see just there, Joe going for the move, making it stick round the outside of the McLaren car. Meaning that now all Joe has to do to retake the lead is get himself to Ocon. You can just see them there coming out of the braking zone. Dirksen, I believe, has the better grip right now. Yeah, you can just see him trying to go past again. He does not make the move though, but he will make the move. He tries to, but he backs out of it at the last second. They're still battling wheel to wheel, going into this sort of chicane complex and onto a very long straight. And now this straight, this is normally the Red Bull's quite fast, but these weaknesses have actually exposed a deeper thing that McLaren may actually be the fastest car on a straight. As you can see, just see there, Dirksen just flying past. And this is a track that has quite a few straights. So all this means that Dirksen actually might be a contender for the race win. As you can just see, the Mercedes has not managed to pull out this massive advantage as they the same as they did in Canada last round. But I believe Joe will try to vie for the. Yeah, Dirksen comes into the pits to go for the undercut. So that's 4 seconds that Joe has to make to Ocon. So does Tanner Bardol come into the pit. Eric Littlethings actually started P11. He's now running in P5. Oh, but Harper Lutter and Tibcam going for it. These two have just pitted 4 new hard tires. You can just see what all this is. So yeah, Eric Littlethings comes into the pits again. Not again, but yeah. There's been a collision towards the back for Senna for hitting the Williams of HTX. So, and it seems as though Joe is catching. I believe he's catching him, but Dirksen manages to come out in P3 in clean air. However, he is still 20 or 19 seconds rather behind Joe. The timing tower here shows the gap to the leader, not the interval, as I don't have that feature in the big poster. Yeah. So Eric has pitted. He's come out in P10, so that's one position better than from where he started. People who started outside the top 10 are now running inside the top 10 is Anthony here. He started, I think, he didn't qualify. VKNLM, who also did not qualify, and Rafa Caetano. So you can just see Ocon now here coming into the pits. Joe just pits right ahead of him. So Ocon goes for the hard tire. I don't know if I saw a collision there, but yeah. And Joe also goes for the hard tire as well. So is Dirksen catching either of them? I believe Dirksen will just come out ahead of Joe, but behind Ocon. Yeah, there you go. Dirksen comes out ahead of Joe, but behind Ocon there. But Dirksen is catching him. Dirksen is catching the Mercedes man. And so he will try to go for a move onto one of these straights, won't he? You can just see they're following closely behind, following closely behind. Into the braking zone we go. He does not go for the move. But this still leaves Joe is the man on the recovery drive. There's been a 5-second penalty for Tanner Bardol for a collision with Harper Lutter. So yeah, Joe's the man on the recovery drive. I do believe that he might be able to garner something. Here we go on board with Ocon here. He's being very vulnerable. You can see Joe you can see Dirksen going for the move round the outside. It doesn't stick. Ocon has the inside line on him. But Dirksen has the better traction and will pull past ahead of the Mercedes into P1, the lead of this race. All of this has just allowed Joe to come into play. As we're riding here with Ocon now. You can see Joe is gaining. As we go onto the main straight. He will have the DRS, I believe. But Ocon will as well. This is not DRS straight, really. Maybe I've gotten it wrong. But onto the next DRS zone that we will go into, you can just see Joe is just there, pushing, pushing, pushing on his out lap. He will go for a move onto the Mercedes, just storms right past him. Will he go for a move on Dirksen? Oh crap. Will he go for the move on Dirksen? Going into the braking zone, Dirksen just manages to stay ahead. So it's really quite the battle between these two top three. You can just see Ocon's just trying to get some traction here. However, all of these three will have roughly the same entry. So you can just see Dirksen just blocked him from going there. You can just see Joe starting to drop behind a bit. But he will have the better traction coming out of the corner onto one of the straights. I believe this is a DRS straight. Yes, so Ocon will have DRS, but so will Joe. And Joe, I believe, has more power. And so we'll just zoom right past him. So now that means that going on to the start-finish line, Joe will have to try and salvage his race. He will have Dirksen up the road. However, he has Ocon just a few tenths behind him. So the best position here is to either be third or first. Being second means that you're stuck in the pack, right? So you have a third from behind and from ahead, which means that you don't have an advantage or a disadvantage. If you're third, you obviously have the advantage as you're on DRS. You can just see there goes Ocon into P2, back into P2. Will he go for the move on Dirksen into P1? Yes, he will. Makes it stick, makes it move like butter. Joe, just you can just see there in the background, just barely manages to outbrake Dirksen, but Dirksen will have the better traction, I believe. No, he won't. I think, yeah, he's on the older tire too. So it will really just be a battle. You can just see Joe trying to attempt the same moves, and he goes for the lead of the race. Does he outbreak him? He takes the inside line though, throughout the whole thing, but the inside line very quickly turns into the outside line as we go onto one of the straights. But Joe goes for the lead of the race once again. Out past Ocon, out past Dirksen. So yeah, you can see Red Bull are very committed to having Joe take his first race win, because that would be very big for his career. He's a man of 4 poles and no wins. Further back down in the grid, we've seen quite a few penalties handed out to certain back markers. So if Joe's eking out this gap, I believe. So Ocon won't have DRS coming into anywhere near. Yeah, Ocon won't have DRS. So El Tiburon just held. El Tiburon is the shark in Spanish, by the way. That's the name he's kind of ascribed to himself as the shark. But Dirksen goes for the move on Ocon onto the main street, completely unpredicted. But will Ocon fight back going into the braking zone? No, he won't. He is now, so now the top 3 is as is. But Ocon might see potential for opportunity here. Yes, he does. He goes for the move back on the McLaren. Renault power unit of the McLaren versus the Mercedes power unit of Ocon. And that actually, all that fighting has slowed Joe down, so which means Ocon might go for the lead of the race here, as there are only 3 tenths separating the two. Yes, he does. Yes, Ocon does go for the lead of the race, and quite handily at that. He's already managed to eke out a 1.2 second gap, while Dirksen is still in P3. It's a wonderful scrap here you see between these top 3. It's kind of the same scrap that we saw out in Canada. You can just see the Mercedes, the Red Bull is closing down to the Mercedes, with Dirksen not that far behind. Is the gap reducing? No, the gap is actually increasing. No, you can't really say. But Joe is trying to look for a move. He hits the Mercedes. They bump wheels. There's been a 5-second penalty for Joe for a collision with Ocon. And once again, a penalty just absolutely ruins Joe's race again. Time and time again, you see his races are just obviously ruined by these kinds of penalties. And now he's forced to take a break from all that fighting to just try and regroup for his race. But that puts him in net P3, because you have to remember that Tanner Bardot, who also has a 5 second penalty, is still 7 seconds behind these three fighting men. And Dirksen has actually started to drop a bit behind too. So if Joe wants to take the win today, he'll have to do quite a bit of catching. However, they are both on the same strategy, I believe, but they will have to change their strategy. Actually, has my mic been on this whole time? Yes, it has. Okay. Apologies. Yeah, so they are on what seems to be the same strategy. You can just see Joe there trying to vie for the race lead, but it's not for track position. You can just see Ocon there. I think Ocon's just gonna let him by. Oh, is Ocon just gonna let him by? Does he have greater traction going onto the straight, onto the start finish straight? It's hard to tell. But now Joe has to eke out a 5 or more second gap to the Mercedes. So I think the Mercedes is comfortable now, knowing that, you know, he's net P1 as of right now. Joe is net P3. So, but Ocon is handily able to just shoot past the Red Bull again. Into the braking zone we go. You can just see Dirksen is also starting to catch these two because of all the fighting. So Red Bull are now telling Joe to hurry it up because of that 5 second penalty. Yeah. So now we see here Vicky and LM, the other McLaren pits, that is not in contention for a podium today. But yeah, you can just see here, Ocon needs to make like a really big mistake for Joe to even think of trying anything for the race win, because he is going for the race win. He's had 4 poles in his career. None of them have been able to be converted into a race win. Another 5 second penalty for Joe for a collision with Ocon. So now that will drop Joe, and that puts Ocon into the lead of the race quite handily. So now Joe will have to try. So now Joe is net P3, definitively. Like, there's no arguing about that. He is net P3. But will he be net P4 is the question. No, there's no chance of him being net P4. This is just absolute travesty to watch right now. Another race win, but another pole being thrown away, just like that. But if Joe manages to finish P2, that will be quite a... There's been a 5 second penalty for Tap for a collision with Joe. Man, what is going on today? Seems that all these people are having quite the tough time, innit? Ain't they? Yeah. It's actually quite sad to watch now. This is the 4th race that we've seen that Joe's just absolutely had an abysmal race. I mean, Red Bull are just not giving him enough, strategy calls and stuff. So, nothing can be said for certain on how, Joe might have to approach this coming into the next phase of pit stops. So yeah, he has to pray for quite the mistake from Ocon as we go on board with our net race leader. Does he come into the pits? No, he doesn't. Because in Canada, we saw our race leader, who's now our former race leader in Canada, Eric. He was running P1. So Dirksen comes into the pits now. So yeah, we saw Eric, who was running P1 before he made a big mistake onto the main straight of Canada, and that effectively ended his chances of, trying to vie for the race win. But that was a 5 second penalty that he was given. It was not a 10 second penalty. I think this may be our first 10 second penalty of the season. You can just see Ocon's just starting to slow a bit there. I don't know if Joe's catching him. Let's just check the view of his 5 second penalty for Tipcom for collision with the Haas of Levi Graham. Oh, that doesn't seem good, because I mean they've just exited sector 1 now. So yeah, you can just see here Joe's gaining, Joe's gaining, Joe's gaining. But there is the back marker. I believe that's the first Williams of Eric HTX. That's just behind there. So they have to. So Joe has to go for the alternative strategy. He has to go opposite to Ocon. Maybe if there's a safety car. We haven't had a safety car this season. Or have we? I'm not sure. I think if we did, it must have been in Australia. So yeah, they don't go into the pits. Joe's trying to look for a move. He has his rear wing open. Dirksen sets the fastest sector 2. It's clear that he's gaining. You can just see the speed at which these cars are just throwing themselves onto the track. You can just see all that. It's not really helping their cases, is it? So, into the braking zone. No, not yet. Sorry. We're about to reach the braking zone now. You can just see that Joe's not gone for the move yet on Ocon. But it seems as though Ocon is actually going quite slow. I don't know if it's just... I don't know if it's because of the age of their tires, or if it's just him, but his Mercedes is starting to go quite slow right now. Yeah, let's just go on board with Joe. We'll see if he's catching him. So yeah, both their tires look quite finished, but Joe is the man on man on a mission. He's trying to hunt down Ocon. Just that little bit of oversteer going into the braking zone. He has to make sure he doesn't hit him this time. He has the inside line, but he's just barely behind him, just barely behind him. Yeah, you can see the cars on the main straight. This is usually like 7th or 8th gear or so. So Joe will now once again, but he backs off at the last second. Dirksen is now catching up to them. You can just see this man is flying onto these straights. So yeah, and they've both gone in for the pit. You can just see there, they have to wait 10 seconds before they can exit the pit lane. So he will be at a big disadvantage. That's a long 10 seconds, eh? So that will put him definitively behind Joe, but will that put him behind Eric? That will put him behind, I mean, Harper Lutter. That will put him behind that car. So Joe, on the medium stint, now has to make the recovery drive of his life. I tell you. Dirksen is now 10 seconds in the lead of the race. There's been another 5-second penalty. But then there's been a Reynolds. Both of the Reynolds have collided. That puts Dow into the... You can just see the front wing absolutely destroyed there. So, a Renault collision that I believe there was a safety. If that was a safety car, it would have been handy for those that would have not have pitted yet. But yeah, you can just see they're fighting with the Haas for not last place, but last place out on track. So yeah, Joe has to put in quite a few banger laps. I believe if him and Ocon are on the same strategy, that dream's just gone away now. Because he's 12 seconds. 12 seconds. He's actually closer to Bardot than he is to Harper Lutter. Yeah, it's a sad day at Red Bull, but he will have to now just put in all of these refreshing laps. So you can just see it, Ocon. And he threads himself between, and he's crashed. He's crashed into the wall, and he's been given a 5-second penalty. Now, what does that do to Joe? Does that put him back into contention for this race? He sets the fastest sector 3. Ocon's now just gone back on his way. You can just see himself not threading the needle between all these back markers, and these back markers not moving out of the way has put him in this sort of bad situation here. So now all this means this has all played into Dirksen's favor, because if Ocon simply can't catch Dirksen, then that would put Dirksen for the lead for the race win. But you can just see there is Joe. He has, a full set car. All he has to do is get past Senna here. You can just see he's quite a bit behind Senna, but there's only 3 seconds separating these two. It was 10 seconds the last time we checked. So yeah, Joe has now got to discharge his duty and not try to let this Haas interfere with that his recovery. His race has just gone from 100 to 0 and is now back on. So this Haas just has to let him by, and he does let him by quite smoothly, meaning that now Ocon is net P3. I mean, that's where he started, but he was once on for the race lead. You can just see there's Joe right there in the background. He's now had a newfound purpose here. There's only 2 seconds separating these two. You can just see there, 1, 2, just like that. Joe will try to go for the move as we go onto this very, very long straight. He will have the DRS. He will pull side by side, and he's got a 5-second penalty for a collision with Ocon. So what does that mean? I mean, now he is net P2, yes, and it was only a collision of the wheels. So I don't know what the FIA was just trying to do there. But then again, this game and penalties are very scuffed. So yeah. So now Joe has to, really put in the laps right now. Just to try. I mean, he has a back marker in front of him, I believe. No, that was just tip. Come on, our nose. That was our nose. Our nose, you can see his front wing is absolutely tattered. So Joe will just have to try to keep it on track and try to steer clear of Ocon. You just have another back marker. It's the Williams here. Will he let Joe past? I mean, Joe's too far behind for us to definitively say anything. But you can just see Joe's just right there. Right there. How's his front wing? How is Joe's front wing? Joe's front wing is fine. So yeah, he will go for the move quite clearly. Ocon goes to pit again, but he will have to wait 5 seconds before he can achieve anything with that pit. And yeah, he's let the Ferrari pass, but we've known that the Ferrari usually isn't an issue. So is Joe catching him? It seems so, considering he is. So that now that has put Harper Lutter, who's driven quite a quiet race, but now he is running in P3, right? And this is like track position P3. After I don't know where he started. I think he started roughly 8th or so. Yeah, I think he started 8th or so. The yellow flag sector 2 track limits warning for Dirks, and he spun round. He has spun round. He's hit the barriers. That's just allowed Joe. Will he come and go? He's within 1 second now. He's just barely missed it. He's within 5/10 now. So that has just allowed Joe to massively make up so much time, and just you can just see there Dirksen thought about trying to defend, but he can't defend, and he hasn't defended. So now the top three who's the top three who started this race now all have broken cars. I think Dirksen's going to come into the pits, is he? Yep, he is. So now that would put Lutter at the advantage now. As Dirksen comes into the pits, Lutter will now be P2 with 9 laps to go. I mean, yes, okay, we'll see. Does he hit? No, he does not. He does not hit. I don't know. I think that was Senna coming out of the pits. So now that puts Joe's very clear of the rest of the field, and he will be happy to hear that when he does come to change his tires. So now Lutter, this is his first race weekend, so this is his third race after replacing I Am Stupid at Ferrari. He will now be on for Ferrari's first podium of the season, potentially. Dirksen has Ocon for company here in P3 and P4. Ocon's just managed to get past him, it seems. I think no matter what happens, Ocon will extend his championship lead. But you can just see there, Dirksen, do they touch wheels? No, they do not touch wheels. Thankfully, that's not something either of them wanted to see either way. So yeah, Dirksen obviously on the fresher tires, but he is on the hards. It seems that he's going to go to the end of the race with these hard tires, whereas Ocon, you don't really know, because Mercedes like to do opposite of whatever's happening in front of them. So yeah, back to Harper Lata here. His teammate had a bad collision into the first part of the race. He got away badly. Talking about Joe here, who's running in P12 right now. So his teammate is running in P12, and he is not on for a point. Um, However, he himself is on for a P2 finish, and he's quite handily ahead of the battling pair of Ocon and Dirksen. Is Tanner approaching? No, Tanner's not approaching. They're still quite a ways behind. Oh, so yeah, I mean, we did say that Joe would need an absolute miracle, some big mistakes to happen for him to have a chance of winning this race. And big mistakes did happen, and that has just allowed him to really flourish in this race. Yes. Other commendable things. Rafa Caetano did not qualify for the Grand Prix and yet is in P8. I believe the reason for this is because of this accident here with Joe. So Mercedes are going to be fuming. They'll have a lot to talk about going into the triple header here. The main focus of the European leg on Friday, which will be the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. Joe comes into the pits. You can just see here, they'll have to wait 5 seconds before they pit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the tires go on. What does Joe pick? Joe will pick the hard tires to go to the end of the race, and so does Lata Box, meaning that coming onto the straight, Ocon will now have the lead of the race ahead of Dirksen. But does Joe come out ahead? No, Joe comes out in third. However, he will have the advantage of having fresher tires, and so will Harper. So now these two are going for an absolute scrap. Make sure Dirksen doesn't hit the wall there. You can just see them absolutely battling, pushing themselves off on and off the track, right? So Dirksen has actually managed to present himself as a formidable force against the Mercedes, but the Mercedes is a Mercedes. It is the W11, the most dominant car of the season. Ocon has taken it to 3 wins this season, but it does not look likely that he will retain his streak. You can just see here, Ocon's just trying to pass the back mark. I believe that's the Williams there. The Williams is obliged by blue flags to let him pass. Joe has now managed to make up all of those seconds that he lost in the pit lane while keeping Harper 10 seconds behind. So now with 7 laps to go? Yeah, 7 laps to go. We have once again our top 3. But Joe will, as long as Joe just steers clear of any trouble here, he will have the race win in his bag. You can just see that here comes Dirksen, imminent on the Mercedes. He's catching. Just in the background there's Joe, who's, I believe he's past the back marker. Yes, he is. You can just see him there onto the straight. He's the car that's just back there in view. Yeah, so 6 laps, I believe. Yeah, 6 laps to go. Our order here is Ocon, Dirksen, and Joe. However, Joe has managed to close nearly 8-second gap to 3 seconds. You have Caetano and Eric Littlethings going to pit. Joe has set the fastest time in sector 1. As we go onto the straight into the hard braking zone, this is where Joe got his penalty against Ocon. 4, does he go for the move? Do they bang wheels? Joe just manages to eke past, but it's quite tight. Joe manages just barely to hang on there, but he is through to P2. Joe on the recovery drive of his life. We did say that he would need quite a few miracles for him to be able to go for this feat, to go for the first race win. He's surrounded by race winners. Dirksen, a 1-time race winner. Ocon, a 15-time race winner. As of now, he might be going for number 16 today, but no, it seems as though today is Joe's day. Joe did not set a fastest time in Sector 2, but I believe he will go for the fastest lap of the race as we go onto the start-finish line. No, he did not go for the fastest lap of the race. However, you can just see in the background of the Mercedes there, you can just see Joe as they go. Will there be a braking zone here? Joe just goes slightly off track, but he will make this easy for himself and for the Mercedes, who just files right beside him. But Joe is through to the lead of the race once again. Will the Mercedes try to go for a dive bomb move? No, he can't fight it. Wow, he's into the lead of the race of the French Grand Prix with 5 laps to go. Joe, the man to beat. 4 poles yet, he's been unproven. 5-second penalty for Tanner Bardot. The Mercedes are going band for band, wheel to wheel. This is the kind of stuff you saw in 2021. Here we see it again in 2026 in F1-70. You have Ocon and Joe, Red Bull, Mercedes fighting once again. But Joe pulls through, and he's already managed to eke out a 2-second gap. So Tanner actually has now had 5 seconds added to his time. He's being swallowed up here by 2 cars. That has demoted him back down to P10. So you can just see there that snap of oversteer. That's quite bad for him, as Albano is now beginning to catch up to him. So Tap has now managed to enter himself back into the point. So Ocon goes for his 4th pit stop of the Grand Prix. And he's gone for a set of mediums with 4 laps to go. Now, you might be sitting there and thinking, okay, what is this guy doing? He's clearly, he's not going to go for anything meaningful. However, the medium tire, and indeed those who have stopped late, have often proven themselves to be quite handy when it comes to pushing. And Ocon is known for pushing into the final stretches of a Grand Prix. However, do we think that today will be the day that we see Ocon fall? There's been a 5-second penalty for a tap from Jupiter for a collision with Eric Little Things. You can just see there's Albano onto the main straight, I believe, as Tanner Bardot comes into the pits. So yeah, everyone's going. I mean, Tanner's gone for his 5th pit stop of the Grand Prix so far. There's been a track limits for Joe, who's managed to fight his way back up to P6. He has Tip come for company. However, here Ocon looks like he's just gonna go for the P4. I mean, he was on for a podium finish. He was miles ahead of Harper Lotta. It seems that he's thrown that away though. As we enter lap 26 with 3 laps to go, it does not seem as though Ocon is catching Harper. Harper is just crossing the finish line right now, while Ocon is still 3 corners behind. You just see that the control that Harper has on that Renault. 5-second penalty for Rafael Caetano for a collision with Joe. Joe's been hit by everyone this race, hasn't he? Yeah, so it's 18 seconds that Ocon has to make up if he wanted to catch Harper in time. It doesn't seem as though he will. Tanner Bardot is making his way back up into the points paying positions. He's just now gotten past Anthony there. He does have quite a way to make. So in the closing stages of the Grand Prix, we do have quite a race. We still have P3 certainly undecided. We've got the last few points paying positions still undecided. And we've got 3 laps of racing left. So will we even have enough time in the Grand Prix for this level of racing? Well, I can certainly answer that. And that is that Ocon seems to be catching him, but will he have caught him in time? Well, he's being held up by, I believe that's VQNLM that's holding up the Ferrari, but the Ferrari has just managed to get by. It's 11 seconds now on lap 27, as Dirksen and Lutta both go into the pits. What is this for, actually? So that just means Ocon will now exit ahead in P2. They've both gone for the soft tire. All this means that Joe is a full pit window ahead of P2. So even if he boxed now, he would come out in P2 so far. But now that Ocon has lots of clean air, that might quickly change because he is on the softer tire than Joe. So we've got 2 laps left of the Grand Prix. So, you know, let's see, what does Joe do? Does he go for the pit? He does. Oh, where is he? Oh, he's there. I thought he was. No, that's Rafa crossing the start finish straight right now. He's just had to deal with some back markers now. He's still 17 seconds behind. No, 18 seconds, but roughly hanging around there. Behind Ocon. So is that a full pit window or not? Is the real question. Will we have a last few laps duel to go? We will see. It all depends on what this man in front, Joe, does. So does he go into the pits? No, he does not. He crosses on lap 28. Ocon still has a way to catch him, a long way to catch him. Let me uh, clear myself up there. Okay, so the one person who has not had the greatest of races is Tanner Bardo over here, but he is catching VQNLM quite rapidly. Let's see if he will make a move for P11, displacing the man who has finished the most times in P11. Does he make contact with him? It will be quite close. He just manages to sweep right around him. Now his next target, his last target in the points positions is this man right here. Joel and Ferrari are on for their third, no, not their third, can't, I think, yeah, it is their third double points of the season in a row, by the way. We've had today, yesterday, and Friday. So the last three Grand Prix, Qatar. What were the last three? It was Qatar, it was Canada, and now we're on to France. So yeah, it seems as though this will be our finishing order. So the dreams of a Ferrari podium have just fallen short by what seems to be 3 seconds. There's been a 5-second penalty for Lit for a collision with his teammate Albon. Both AlphaTauris are on for their second in a row double points finish. But there's been many talk of Joe. He is a season 1 veteran. There has been so much chaos going around him. Even in himself, he has had chaos behind him, in front of him, all around him. While he was teammates with the man in P3, Joshua Dirksen, he saw him win a race. He saw him rise above, and he said, I want that too. It's been 245 days since we've seen this man finish in P1, and that was for qualifying. Since November 23rd, 2025, he's had 4 poles, 3 podiums in his career. He's moved to Red Bull in hopes of securing something like a race win, something like a championship charge. He's thought big before, and with nothing else to stop him now, Joe will now round the final corners onto one of the start-finish line, onto the start-finish straight, and he will come out in position 1 after so many days, after so much talk, after many retirements. Joe will round the final corners and see the checkered flag first, and for the first time in Formula 1, Joe wins the Grand Prix. Joe wins the French Grand Prix. You can have it there, mate. You deserve every second of that. For the first time in Formula 1, Joe will finish on the top step of the podium. What a man. There's been so much talk around him. Even in himself, he started to doubt whether he could do it. But now he's proven himself to everyone. He's proven himself to all the doubters. He's proven himself to the same man who's retired many times, to the same man who's quit the idea. But no, he says, no, I'm better than that. No, I will rise above it. Joe has won a Grand Prix for the first time ever. Ocon finishes in second. Dirksen finishes in third. For the same 3 that we've had in Canada, but now in a different outcome. Rafael Cayetano has made a mega charge to the finish. What a race we've had here in Paul Ricard. Joe, finally, after 29 laps, is a Grand Prix winner. He can have it that. Stick around for the national anthem that will play there. That's the top three we've begun to see all too often here in the F1-70 season. Now onto our race results. Joe, P1, Ocon, Dirksen, Lutter, Tipcam, Albono, Caetano, Jupiter, Joel, Little Things rounds up the top 10, now 11th to 20th. Bardol, Viconalem, Anthony, Edward, HTX, Senna, Graham, Arnolds, Die, and who retired on lap 3, I think, with a mechanical issue, Juan Carrero. Stick around for the national anthem on the podium. The Austrian anthem for Red Bull Racing, the constructors winner of today. Okay, last thoughts and what will happen next. Congratulations to Joe. Finally, he's won a Grand Prix. uh, he's broken the streak. So I lied yesterday. I did not fix the issue of back markers, and I believe it's come back to bite me in the ass. Sorry guys, I'll fix that. I promise. I promise. I'll fix that. Um, going into Imola, our next race of the season. Um, as for the championship, I'm about to calculate it right now after I just finish everything up. But I believe Ocon has had quite an interesting second race weekend. Joe has had an amazing second race weekend. Probably bad, but good to top it all off with a win. Um, he now writes his name as, I believe, our 12th race winner in Formula 170. But we will be back. Emilia Romagna, Monaco, and the Spanish Grand Prix in Barcelona, Catalunya are all up next. Yes, so congratulations to Joe, and I will see you guys on Friday for our next Grand Prix in Emilia Romagna. Arriva. Well, you know.